Good evening, dear listeners, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special session of the year, the Digital Online Streaming Mastery Show, Unit number 40, Conduct number 35. Those of you that were with us, at the beginning of the year, in February, when we declared this new series, and made the commitment that it was going to be a weekly series on Tuesdays evening until the end of the year to cover the 40 units and the 35 conducts of the digital online streaming mastery. We'll recall the challenge that we was facing us to say this is a serious commitment that is not very easily achieved. But we were also anxious to look at the potential level at which we will be as the actionaries in the industry. I'm sure tonight we're going to hear a lot of testimonies from some of us who are co-hosts of this series, because indeed, it is unit number 40, Conduct 35. We close in the chapter, and we are positioning ourselves really as subject matter experts in the field. My name is Sam Zimmer. I'm not alone. I'm with the co-host of this series. They will introduce themselves, and they will tell you a little bit about themselves, but more so, they will share with you the highlights of the series. This is Comesa Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. Today, Makuluve Ramutla Franz decided to be not only virtually present with me, but to be physically with me in the Comesa studios. So you'll hear from him. He's just next door to me. It's a wonderful feeling to have one of our co-hosts close to me. And we have a bottle of red wine here. At the end of the show, we are going to toast to this great success. And my colleagues that are available virtually will toast with them virtually. Makuluve, how is that?
Oh, it sounds very good. I'm looking forward, Bachan. I'm looking forward.
Yeah. Welcome, Makuluve. As always, you must be feeling great to be at the apex of this very intense 40 units digital online streaming mastery show, a weekly show that takes place on Tuesdays evening, 1900 hours. It's almost difficult to believe that we have made it.
Well, it was a marathon, and I'm happy that we managed to reach the finish line, and while we're still energetic and ready for next year, because we are also going to get into another program that is also going to require us to continue with our commitment.
Yeah. This displays our capacity emotionally, and then of course very high level of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, the show, Stephen Covey is one principle is sharpen the saw. Myself, you kept saying, when I say I've retired, you kept saying, no, you have not retired. And I appreciated the opportunity that has been given to me by Comesa to participate in this digital online streaming master show. Because, I sharpened my saw. And I keep sharpening it because, consistent with our social work vision, where I participated with you in collaboration with Black Management Forum, which you were leading. You know, we used to say we want to provide social service practitioners with a multiplicity of skills and competencies that are marketable, that are packaged and marketable across commerce and industry.
Mm.
And with this show that I'm engaged in, I keep increasing, I keep improving my skills and competencies. And I feel confidence that going forward in terms of application, we are ready to contribute.
Yeah. In the words of Madiba, our late President Nelson Mandela, from his long walk to freedom, I don't know if it was long walk to freedom or it was just one of those famous statements that he uttered. It looks impossible until it is done.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Even for us, the 40 units look like at some stage we will break down, but at least we persevered and we are free now.
Free at last.
At last we are free.
Free at last.
It was a long walk, but at last we have arrived.
Yeah, it was a long walk to freedom. You know, there are so many leaders in the world that have been so inspirational to humanity, you know, as we shout the slogan of free at last, you can't help it but recount on the famous Martin Luther King, you know, and his dream, you know,
Yes.
that he has been to mountaintop and he has seen promised land, that one day his sisters will be free. At last. So anything you commit to is doable. And I think this is a message I hope that we will bring across, that you need to set yourself a goal and stick to it and see what happens when you reach it, and the beauty and the good feeling about it. But with those few words, let me welcome Rapula and Divesh, because I'm sure they are eager to express their excitement and their feeling at this point in time. Welcome, Divesh and Rapula. We are glad that you could join, and you can see that Franz and I, we are silly. We wanting to overindulge because we are physically together here at the Commerza Studios. Let's not abuse this privilege and give you the opportunity to reflect a bit and greet the listeners. Divesh?
Good evening, Sam. Good evening, Franz and Rapula, and very good evening to the listeners. Yes, indeed, Sam. It's a very onerous moment to have reached the pinnacle of our 40 show series. And indeed, it's been a challenging but also rewarding journey that we ourselves, as well as the listeners out there who have joined us and who have supported us to traverse this journey together. And as much as we've shared lots of our skill, lots of our knowledge to the listeners, it has also been an opportunity for us to learn amongst each other. And that in itself has been very rewarding for myself on a personal level. And if I could even share some of the nuggets, if I could put it that way, with the listeners, which encapsulate some of our lessons learned, some of the gifts of knowledge that we've shared with our audience. The first one I'd like to share is that authenticity and engagement are the heart of successful digital streaming. And with it, we connect our audience on a personal level. So, although we've been always saying in our show and our series that we're focusing in on the digital online streaming, but most of our lessons, most of our skills, the abilities we have encouraged our listeners to develop have not only been centered only around digital streaming, but also within their own lives, their careers, relationships, personal self-development as well. So in terms of the careers, we say never stop learning. Adaptability is the greatest asset in a rapidly changing world. In terms of relationships, we say strong relationships are built on empathy and effective communication. Make time for meaningful interactions, whether it's in your personal circle or whether it's in your work environment, and of course, whether it's in the value chain of the digital online streaming. In terms of self awareness, very important. Mindfulness, they are very key to personal growth. Reflect on your journey and stay present in terms of your own mindset. Balance is essential. Whether it's for fulfilling life, it's important to prioritize your well being and make time for what you love. And to that, I would say thank you to you, Sam, for this opportunity to not only share my skills and knowledge, but also to learn as well as we continue. And as Franz has mentioned, this may be the end of the 40 series, which will live on the internet forever. But we will be also looking forward to the new journeys and the new skills and learning or lessons that we would like to share with our listeners. Thank you, sir.
Indeed, indeed. And there's no way it can be the end. It's the end of one chapter and the beginning of many more chapters, Divesh. And we have become such a strong family that I don't even want to imagine it not being possible in 2025, because that will sound like the life coming to a standstill. And we can't afford to have a life that's we have embraced the idea and the culture of lifelong learning in a true sense. And I feel so fulfilled to know that there is always nuggets that are going to come from the members of the family whenever we come together. So this concept of lifelong learning is real. It's actually the lifeblood of our being. Rabula?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Dadara Muta. Thank you, Divesh. This is a closing of the new chapter. So we reopen another chapter very shortly. So one person say, what is wow moment? Wow moment is to say, understand networking is an industry which can create business for you. The other thing which a person says my take home is practice until you are consciously doing that.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, keep on practicing. Rome was not built in a day. Bear in mind that there is no elevator to success. You need to do it step by step. Because if you take an elevator, you're going to fall. You don't know which step did you miss. You're going to fall consistently. So that's a learning that's so far. And it keeps on saying you must keep on learning.
Yeah.
It's a continuous journey. It's not a short-term journey. Some of the things which a person do through these shows, when you are on a live environment where these things happen, you start thinking very fast and very quick. One of the things which I didn't study at any institution is psychology, but it looks like I'm more psychologically inclined than I thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I can even address psychologists and they ask me a question, are you a psychologist? I said no. But that's Comesa Radio.
Yes.
Yeah. The themes that we handle are very real to life.
Yes.
And what I like is that every time when you guys bring real life cases, then you realize, but the people who wrote these theories, they first experience life as we experience it, and they put the time aside and conceptualize some concepts and come up with terms and terminologies, but they change nothing about the life experiences.
Yes.
So now I'm glad to know that actually when you read something called a concept or a framework, if you look deeper, you will find that it is nothing new except that it's packaged differently. But it's something, if you look deeper in your own life, you locate it somewhere.
Exactly. But
Wow.
that's learning and that's life. Practice and practice until it happens unconsciously, subconsciously.
Mm. Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. We're going to go deeper into this because this is a celebration. I know we have listeners on the line. They must not feel that we're ignoring them. We are just now looking back and try to reflect and do soul search, share deeper learnings that we've got because
Yeah.
I think this is the gift to humanity. For me, one big realization is that as much as we need to feed our bodies with food and water and liquids, our brain needs more than we ever thought. And I
Yes.
think we can never feed it enough.
Yes.
And I'm glad. That's why I say free at last, because it's like we're, we're living in an illusion.
Oh, yes, indeed.
It's a
We
pity
are
Josh couldn't make it today.
we are free at last. I appreciate the fact that Prasem, during the course of the shows and the colleagues, we keep saying this is an elephant, and
Yeah.
we are going to eat it pieces by pieces. And yeah, today is the end of. We're ending to eat the elephant.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are ending to eat the elephant, and this tells us that our approach has been holistic, but taking into care the bits and pieces, the contribution of each and every unit
Yeah.
to the bigger outcome that we were looking at.
I
And
know.
Prasad,
Yes, Ndadra Mutla.
you know, our looking at the learning outcomes that we expected from the show, and I keep ticking here. We said to acquire the knowledge, skills, competencies, and ability to conceptualize, develop, schedule, produce, host, moderate, anchor, and DJ line digital online radio, podcast, and video talk shows. What a wonderful moment we had. When I look at the road we traveled and I look at the outcomes, I think my colleagues will feel the same, like we have achieved our learning outcomes.
Yeah. I know that the other colleagues will join us later, our co-host. But if you look at just the four of us and you look at the perspectives, in other ways, where we come from, the kind of trajectory we followed in terms of education, work experience, and life experience. I mean, the compatibility between us. I always use Divesh as an example, who's an engineer. People always say that it's very difficult to find the compatibility between engineering and the humanities. But it's such a wonderful thing when you take back seat and try to understand things from an engineer point of view. And I'm sure the same applies to Divesh trying to understand the things from a humanities point of view. So is the same as Dadera Muta was very much deeply invested in the social sciences, and Rabula, who is a financial guru. And then it's like those titles or those backgrounds just disappear, and we've become some concoction of some sort that is so positive. Yes.
Sam,
At some stage, I don't look at you as an engineer. I just look at you as somebody that has a certain perspective that is just totally different, but very complementary to mine.
that's how they said as a student or as a kid, you normally have this mindset of a career at the back of your mind. But as you grew up, you realize that yes, you have contributed, but is it you, or was it somebody else putting that perspective in your mind? Hence now the real person whom you should plow back, it becomes you as you grow up.
Mm. Mm. Absolutely. Divesh, any input there to that perspective?
Yes, indeed, Sam. The diversity is something that can bring value to the group, especially when we are looking for varying insights and varying perspectives. It's always important. And like our analogy that we have with regards to Lokotla, within your tribe, within your group, within your team, you will have that diversity. And that's what we actually, professing in terms of all the teachings we do, is that we got to accept diversity. We got to expect diversity, whether it's from a cultural perspective, whether it's from an educational perspective. That is something we are professing as COMETSA. And we got to respect that diversity so that as a collective, we can deliver something that is unique and something that is respectful of all the other cultures and diversity elements that enjoy our content we produce. So, also in that delivery of a multi diversified team, like we have here tonight, like we have in South Africa, as well as a unique offering to the rest of the world, we will find opportunities to learn. We will find opportunities to share and to teach to our fellow comrades on the groups that we work in. And we can only do that if we acknowledge some of the lessons that we have been sharing with our listeners, in that you got to be open, you got to be empathetic, you got to be working on those skills that would make you into a leader. And within your team, you may lead from behind, but that value that you can actually still add to the whole is very important, Sam. So although I'm an engineer, yes, I do find myself sometimes very different as the traditional engineers that I do work with, but I try to instill those varying ideas that I do have as a human being and instill those into my fellow engineers and likewise with other groupings to instill that ability to see every person within the group as someone who has potential to offer some value into the group. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let me share with you some high-level reflections, and then we will dive deeper into the actual units that impacted on us in general. The appreciation of the space that one has to hold as a moderator for me is something I will always treasure. Remembering very well that we are streaming from South Africa into the entire world, and therefore some of the assumptions as we engage in these conversations may not be appropriate for some listeners sitting somewhere in the world. And therefore, trying to be truly myself and first expressing my naivety in terms of my background, but also appreciating the fact that this platform is global, and therefore trying to put myself in the shoes of a listener that is sitting in a corner somewhere, which I can't even imagine how it looks like, is something that humbled me. And I feel that as we become members of the communities of nations, that is something that we need to treasure and continue to cultivate, because you could be missing out somebody out there that could learn from you and you could learn from without even them being with you. One organization that I follow a lot is called Heart Math Institute, which is an organization that trying very hard through their medical science to create coherence among the people of the world through the kind of programs that they promote. And I liken our program to their interventions in the sense that You've got to imagine and believe that truly you are touching somebody somewhere, and there is a coherence between yourself and that somebody that is hearing your voice, so much that your voice becomes so familiar in their vocabulary on a weekly basis that when they don't hear your voice, they must be missing something. But you have no proof of that. You must just believe. That to me is the biggest takeaway as a moderator, but also using you guys as co-hosts as a control, because the way you respond to me holding the space is almost like a symbol or an example of how it is out there among the bigger listeners. So that's really for me something that I don't take for granted. And I think when I watch and listen to other people's shows, then I'm able to position myself on the other side as a listener. And the same way I respond to their holding of the space, I start to believe that this is how my own listeners respond. And that is the power of technology. And I think, let me hold it there and ask you if you ever actually put yourself in the middle of a myriad of listeners out there, and with the belief, sustained yourself in your way of engaging, and how do you feel the more you reflect on that, and then we can go into the specifics.
From my side, very consistent reminder by saying, when you do reflection on a weekly basis, what did you learn which is new? Are you there? Very quiet.
Yes, we are
So,
with you.
Yes, that's what often keeps on taking on my mind. Then sometimes you may find that if I miss the show by any other thing, I keep on asking myself, what did I miss? Yes, it's good to listen to the podcast, but ideally, if you start the podcast, it makes your life much more easier. And those learnings are very crucial.
Yeah.
And second to that, if you go back, Divesh mentioned Lekotla. You go back and think very deeply around it. When you sit in a meeting, especially family meetings, you become the last to speak. It makes your life much more easier. Why? You have listened to everybody, whether you agree with them or don't, but you have listened to everybody.
Absolutely.
So you take that into that service, so don't only use it in a professional environment, you only use it in the family gathering environment. It makes life much more easier. Even those who believed nobody ever listened to them, they get a platform to speak. And it makes life, it changes the whole dynamics within the structures.
Yeah.
That's the learnings which stick into my system.
Yeah. Divesh?
In terms of the point you had raised, I would like to also share that for me, learning from the experiences of seasoned professionals, and each one of us, as we've traversed this journey, we've elevated our skill level to potentially that of seasoned professionals. Even though I think still we can learn much more, but as we learn from each other, we learn from others in our industry. We listen to other podcasters or online streaming professionals. They provide invaluable insights and inspire new ideas. We must always be open to learning from others. And the other angle with regards to our audience, when we're engaging with our audience, it's in a real-time basis. And of course, in our show, this format that we're using is not necessarily taking any feedback directly from our listeners. But indeed, we do get feedback post the show once the show becomes a podcast. And there is definitely value in that, where not only do we build a loyal community, but we also provide that feedback so we can then improve our content, improve ourselves, improve the value that we give back to our listeners, and of course in the show that we're developing for ourselves. And I think that is something we can really learn, especially since the format we're using of online streaming reaches every little corner in the world, as you had put.
Indeed, and it has a long shelf life. You know, it's always there for all sorts of consumers. And there's one set of consumers I always anticipate that they will come across our input, and that is researchers and students of today and tomorrow. And that makes me very happy to know that these platforms are visited by people who are truly looking for authentic, genuine, original ideas to inform the research work that they do. I was in conversation with a new acquaintance of mine from Prague, who happened to be a professor at the University of New York over there, the local university, but originally is from Greece. And I was saying to him that I love the city of Athens. And then he asked me if I've been to Athens, or Athens, as they call it in English. I said, no, I've not been there physically, but I've been there spiritually because I follow the Greek philosophers and the Greek culture because of South Africa also being very historically, traditionally, very much intertwined with Greece. And then we started talking about leadership academy and coaching that is informed by diverse cultures of the world. And then I started telling him about this. He said they will want to use storytelling to inform their leadership academy that they will want to establish. Then I said to him that Africa and South Africa in particular, or Africa in general, is known for storytelling. And I'm glad that there is a realization that that's the one model or method of learning that we can share. So it's never about one culture being better than another or one method being better than another. It's just about showing up. And what we have done with this show is exactly that, because we use the Lekgotla methodology. We are not in even when we have a contestation of ideas, we don't contest for the space. That on its own is a gift to the world. And I will want to work with more such professors and researchers to claim our space without actually pushing anybody out. With those few words, let's go to the topic today. I think it's appropriate to talk about personal productivity. This is what we are implying by reflecting on the 39 units and including today's units by looking at checking out of the program and ending the series, but using the topic of personal productivity and say, what are the things that one must be mastering in order to ensure that you have that high level of personal productivity with you. And one thing for me that I take away from one of the previous shows is what is called a productivity journal, which in a simple way is one way of writing down the things that you are planning to do in a day and coming back at the end of the day to check if you have done them. And those things that you have not done, you transfer them to the next page of your productivity journal. And those are the first things you start with in the following day so that you don't continue carrying them forward. So personal productivity, although it's an outcome, but it's also a process, it's also an intervention, and it's got tools and that can be used to ensure it does not happen on its own. Arriving at Unit 40 is an evidence that we have a discipline to make sure that we achieve highest level of personal productivity. And the evidence of that is achieving the target. In this case, it was 40 units, 35 conducts. Let me hold it there and ask you to reflect a bit on this topic, because I think if we can make everybody to engage with the topic of personal productivity, nobody will need a manager or a supervisor.
We are informed that most people find that they wish they had more time in a day. I think most of us, if not all of us, we find ourselves overwhelmed by the fact that we are not able to finish what we want to finish. And therefore, personal productivity is a goal most of us have. So, as you have said, Prasem, with this digital streaming mastery program, I think we are on track in achieving that goal of personal productivity. As we have just indicated, we reached 40 units, and therefore that was the goal that we have set. And in it, we acquired knowledge, skills that we are going to use in the future. And therefore, I think this introduces ourselves today very well in terms of personal productivity.
And as a model, that is something that we can give to whoever is listening, that it starts with the commitment that is linked to a time period and the discipline to start eating the elephant in its own little pieces. In this case, the little pieces were the weekly shows.
Indeed.
For which we had to prepare.
Yes, it reminds me, Prasem, that before each and every show, one had to do more research about the topic. And in as far as I'm concerned, I appreciated the diversity, but more often than not, I had to be challenged to determine the niche from a social service point of view. And considering the fact that there are limitations in as far as information technology and online technology is concerned from the social service field. So I was very much happy to determine the niche and to contribute in the diverse knowledge and skills of the co-host that we have. Thanks.
And Ndadra Bula, thanks, Ndadra Bula. I will assume that the word personal in the personal productivity concept carries a huge meaning. And my interpretation is that it is personal productivity if it is you achieve it without being made to achieve it by somebody called a supervisor or a manager. The moment you're doing it because somebody is supervising and monitoring you, overseeing you, and then you have no choice but to do it, it is not personal productivity. Am I right in assuming that? It's more to deal with the self-drive, intrinsic motivation, commitment, and self-directedness.
So, Sam, you are right, but very often you must bear in mind all these things comes with the wisdom. So as a young kid, fresh from university or fresh from high school, you start working, you always take chances. That's why you don't need a supervisor. Even as a young kid from university, from high school, when you start with a different ambition, you won't take chances, you ask for more, to understand more. But very often,
Taking the
it comes
instruction from a supervisor is a character you need to acquire personal productivity.
directly. So sometimes you need to be a diversified leader. A situation, avail yourself what type of leadership you put in place, supervision in place. But on the other hand, it may not even require that level. You may just, in what you call it, doing an environmental scan, it helps you to be as extreme or as much productive as you think you are, or as I think the team is. It is.
Mm.
I often, when I speak to the educators, or not even educators, you find that in the government sector, you find less number of people doing the job which was done by more people before, and they complain they were understaffed. But the productivity still goes on, whether at the highest level, lowest level, but still goes on. Nothing stops.
Mm.
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 So how do you define that type of productivity?
Yeah.
You may find that there is productivity. The only thing which is lacking there, it's energy to continuously working as if we are still 20 and even if we are 5.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it is the energy and the willingness to be stretched.
Yes. Because if you take that concept and go to the mining sector, the employees in the mining sector are stretched. They said, guys, here's a money on the table. If for the next coming 6 months, we don't have what you call casualty, you'll get that money. But immediately as a casualty, you don't get a cent out of it. That's when you start seeing employees working careful to put safety up front before they can do any job.
And that will be what we call extrinsic motivation. So somebody motivates you by giving you an incentive, and then you must respond.
Yes.
But the response carries energy level that is inspired by the value of the incentive that is being declared.
Yes, because
So if you
honestly,
don't respond to a incentive like that, you are failing in terms of personal productivity.
it's fantastic. But on the other hand, because when there's casualty in the mining sector, that specific shaft get closed minimum about 3 or 4 weeks before they can reopen it until the full investigation is completed. And if you shut down the mining shaft for that period, you lose productivity completely. And for you to recover, it's a nightmare.
Mm.
So you are instilling safety to your employees as one end, but you do it with the incentive which could have been put in part and parcel of their salaries, but you decided to divert it.
Mm.
Mm.
Let's talk about the setting goals and the objectives up front as a foundation for achieving personal productivity. Let's talk to Dadra Mutla to the smart goal setting and the 3 Ps. You have expressed quite interest in the concept of the 3 Ps and the smart goals. Last time when I reached out to you about this.
Yes,
this
there are tools that has to be used to achieve personal productivity. And the first one is the SMART goals. And indeed, goal setting is critical to personal productivity because it is the most single life skill that unfortunately most people never learn how to do it properly. So goal setting, Brasem and listeners, can be used in every single area of your life, be it financial, physical, personal development, relationship, or even spiritual. So I have come across information from Christy Lane song, Pratham, where it talks about the fact that time can be from a spiritual perspective. You may use time now because there is a recognition that today is a new day and yesterday is the past and yesterday might not come back, and look forward to the future. So this is in line with goal setting as well. It does not mean that you must set the goals for the future, but you must also look at the back, as we always reflect in our shows. So coming to the 3 Ps, Prasem colleagues and listeners. So if you are to set meaningful long-term goals, you have to take a giant step towards achieving your dreams. So in turn, setting and achieving short-term goals can help you accomplish the task you need to achieve the long-term ones. So it is also important to make sure that all your goals unleash the power of the 3 Ps. So the first one, your goals must be positive, and the second one, your goals must be personal, and the third one, your goals must be possible. You mustn't focus on negative goals, because your goals should be phrased positively, so they help you feel good about yourself and what you are trying to accomplish. And they must be personal. They must reflect your own dreams and values, not those of friends, family, or media. When crafting your goal statement, always use the word I in the sentences and take greater pride in your accomplishment. Finally, when setting goals, be sure to consider what's possible and within your control. Because then if you make goals that are not possible, you are going to put the parameters that are going to be difficult for you to achieve. Thanks, Prasen.
And these models making life sound too serious. Meanwhile, life is meant to be achieved. I mean, meant to be enjoyed, Divesh. As I listened to Ndadera Mudla speaking about goal setting, and is it not making life too serious?
Well, Sam, I think when we talk about digital online streaming programming and the value chain that goes with it, and the premise of the 40 shows which we've gone through, we will realize that there is a big elephant, as we've been saying, and for us to be able to know what the size of the chunks needs to be, we really need to have a formalized way of breaking down the elephant into sizable chunks. Yes, indeed, it should be an enjoyable journey and it should be fun. And in order for you to get to that level where this tremendous task does become a fun exercise, is when you use tools such as SMART, where your goals that you set are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to the task, and of course has a time bound. As formal as that may seem, it does help you to have a journey which is more enjoyable rather than a frustrating and nerve-wracking journey.
So they must speak to the things you value most, and they must complement the type of life you want to live.
Indeed, that
They are just not standalone somewhere away from you.
Indeed, Sam. As you set your goals, they have to be clear and specific to give yourself a clear direction. And then you also, as you measure your progress, you must still stay motivated and on track. But indeed, the first step is that if you are gifted enough to be able to choose your path, make sure the path you choose is one that you really enjoy, you can be passionate about. Therefore, it will already put you in the right sort of energy level and give you the right drive so that the goals you set will be an enjoyable journey for you to reach those goals that you.
So in that Rapula, they need not contradict with my routine that I enjoy so much. If I go back and I want to apply what I've learned, it mustn't really be interfering with my routines, but it should be enriching my routine so that I continue enjoying life that I always wanted.
If you are in a learning process, there's no routine which is static. Routine will keep on changing. Once you're in a learning process, you'll keep on changing. You'll keep on adjusting. It's not going to be the same routine all the times. It will keep sometimes to the worst, sometimes to the good, sometimes to resistance from you resist as a person, but you will keep on changing. If you're in a learning process, it will keep on changing.
So if I decide to study towards an MBA, and then I go to the first lecture and I will come back and I realize that I can no longer sleep for 8 hours now. I need to sleep for 7 hours. Isn't that disrupting my routine?
It is. But is it for the good? Yes. So why worry?
So I need to look at the value that I'm going to extract from adjusting my routine.
Yes.
Wow. I like the idea you are bringing up here. It says that no routine is static. That is quite interesting because people that want to stick to their routine irrespective, they find it very difficult to adjust, I guess.
An example, Sam, which we can use is work integrated learning. You find the what do you call these guys who have been in the industry for a long time? And then you find the young guys coming into the industry. So the people who have been long in the industry, this is a routine, you're not going to change it. The new guys, you're going to have to change. One of the aspects is technology. One guy says, no, we start at 8. He said, no, this one I can work at any time. I don't have to start at 8. But as a progressive institution, you have to adjust. I said, yes, even if I'm going to lose the wisdom, which can take this company next level, I have to accept that there's disruption here of technology. I need to adjust. I'm not static. If you're going to be static, then you're on your own.
Yeah. So this personal productivity concept is something that is assumed to be there and comes with people's qualifications and experiences and knowledge that they are selling. But it must be very difficult to extract it when you're sitting in front of somebody who says, I've got an MBA, I've got 10 years experience, I have knowledge and wisdom, give me the job. I don't think they will say, I also have a discipline to be personally productive. But it's I guess there's an assumption that if you have been working before, you must have developed the ability to be personally productive. Why does it happen sometimes that that's not the case?
Hence, as you do the normally called in interviews, you should be able to pick up some certain body signs which indicated to you there might be a problem with discipline here. Some people can hide it very professionally, but majority they can't. And very often when you are sitting in an interview, listen to the psychologist more intense, because you as a product specialist, you might see there's a person who's going to deliver my product, but don't know how he's going to deliver it. So you're a psychologist. There's psychology in that interview. We'll start identifying areas which if you take this person, be careful of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm.
Or be aware of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
That's
How
why you
do we
need.
how do we make sure that we pick up the gaps in personal productivity earlier on rather than wait until the end of the term? And then you realize that this person knows the job, he knows the area, knows the product, but he lacks personal productivity. He's burning energy and input, but
That's
the
why we've
outcome
got.
and the quality is not ideal.
That's why we've got your tools like Bell Bin, which can help you to identify those things up front.
Mm. Assessments. And at personal level, where you are self-employed, how do you ensure that you don't let yourself down?
It's a tricky one, but be open-minded and listen to feedback you receive, either immediately from the audience or in a pulse. So listen to it and don't personalize the feedback. That's how you're gonna grow. Because sometimes when I give you a feedback, you personalize it and you start creating a barrier, only find that actually you're not going to grow.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And there are many distractions, Tivet, to this. I'm sure if you really want to be successful, the issue of personal productivity must be uppermost in your mind. But there are many distractions, some uninvited, that disappoints people at personal level. I know from coaching point of view, you can actually help people. But if you don't have a coach, you don't have a mentor, but you are very unhappy with yourself, how do you deal with this, Divesh?
Yes, indeed, Sam. One of the areas of focus for personal productivity and the enhancement thereof is to minimize the distractions. And you need to also then just identify and hence reduce those distractions in your environment. This could involve things like having a dedicated workspace, even if on a technology basis, if you work a lot on the computer, install those kinds of apps which actually block distracting websites, for example. You need to have a quiet environment to work in. And of course, when you're not having work hours, if you dedicate certain hours to work, you must obviously turn off your notifications so that you also get your quality time so your mind can also recharge and refresh.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. So it looks like it is a concept that we might have to create. We may have to create awareness among people and consciousness that there is this thing called personal productivity that evades you, that is actually associated with the level of your performance. And in the context of the conscious competency model, unless people are made aware of what they are not aware of, they may not address it. And therefore, they may continue achieving at a lower level than they could. But if people think that is the ultimate they can achieve, they are not going to stretch these people because they think this is how far they could go. So how do we create awareness among people that perhaps the level at which you are performing is not really the level at which is your best. You could still do more if you tweak 1, 2, 3. If I'm a good performer, I'm a 3 performer, and I'm not aware that I could become a 5 performer, and nobody makes me aware, I'm going to do nothing about it. And therefore, I will never experience level 5 performance.
Brother Sam, I think in this personal productivity, there must be continuous evaluation so that there could be some adaptation. When people grow, change and grow, their goals, they also change. And then when they reach their target data set out in their goal, they look at what they have achieved using a checklist. Some of the checklists include what percentage of my goal did I achieve? Why did I achieve that percentage? What would I do differently next time? Or what is my next step? So what other goals might need to change now? In addition, one has to keep an eye on new trends and ideas around him, and he must just find one that will change his life.
So you are introducing another tool, which is continuous evaluation of self. That
Yes.
that may require a behavior of some sort. That you don't do
Yes.
things and finish and go away without evaluating whether what you have been doing is effective.
Yes.
Wow. So these things are interlinked. I mean, you started by goal setting. Now you are saying once you have the goal setting, you now start doing what you need to do, and then somewhere you need to evaluate whether you are making an impact. And I guess that is also performance management. In organizations, these things are there, these processes are there. But if you are not subjected to those processes, you are just one person and professional who wants to be effective. What do you require to be able to achieve those? Because nobody is going to force you to do it. And I guess that's why at the beginning I said, I'm assuming that personal productivity suggests that this is a personal agenda before it becomes somebody else's agenda, as Rapula was saying. Progressive societies must be having self-directed professionals who don't need to have a supervisor to let them know that they need to be worried about their personal productivity. That need to be reminded that they need to reflect on their work to determine whether they are making impact. And if they don't get obvious answer, they might have to engage tools, assessments like Belbin or others to check, to verify whether they are not engaged, they are not in an illusion, thinking that they are making impact, meanwhile they are not, thinking that they are great, meanwhile they are not. So it's some sort of a behavior or a practice. How do we instill it in a society or in people? You didn't have any supervisor, all of us, to make 40 units. We had a commitment and a behavior. What was the drive? Can we share it with other people?
From my side, the drive was to know more, learn more.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that was my drive. Yeah, the more I learn, the more I drive, the more I understand, the better for me to grow as an individual.
Mm. Am I also right to say that at the end of every show, there was feel-good kind of outcome that said, I must experience this again tomorrow?
Yes, because I learned. And it's also some of this was a revision of saying, oh, what you should do, it may not be an appropriate one. Here's an appropriate one.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. I want to argue that before we can even make it a subject of a supervisor and a manager, can we win at making it a personal responsibility diversion? And how do we bring that across.
Yes, Sam, as much as you might say that, a person is older or more experienced, and then the younger generation comes in and they've got new insights and new ways of doing things. At the end of the day, from my perspective, it's got to do with what the individual has within themselves and how they see life. You got to lead by example, and you learn from your own productivity strategies. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what experiences you've had. You can listen to shows like these and to just reflect on the point you had raised just before this last one. What is it that made you come to each of these shows? Make sure that all 40 shows you did participate, you showed up, you shared knowledge, you learned. That is a personal attribute that each one of us has. And it's the same attributes that we are packaging within each of the shows and sharing them in digestible chunks with our audience, Sam. So for me, that's very important, that it takes personal development, it takes personal perspective and commitment. And as much as we can give our listeners the recipe to turn straw into gold, it still requires them to participate and be willing to take in the knowledge that we have and apply it in the best way possible that they see fit for their own progression, sir. So as much as we do have knowledge and skills, it and the personal ambition is required, you're gifted if you can get a supervisor, a mentor, a coach who can help you be the best that you can possibly be. But unfortunately, I think most of society, most of our people out there don't have those privileges, and they gotta take these skills and lessons that we are sharing, the do's and the don'ts, and become the best that they can be by listening to people like ourselves who try to lead. That's my perspective on that one.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's the message I thought we need to leave the listeners with, that it's not enough to have talent and knowledge and all the same. There is a strong will that are personal attributes. It has personal attributes that you require. Great. Let's end the. Let's go to the last part of our show today. We wanted to reflect on the series, and we have enough time to all of us reflect on at least 3 to 5 units and conducts that stand out for you, that you will want to encourage listeners to go back to at insightsonlinepodcast.com and really deepen their knowledge. And we can randomly share it. We don't have to have one person telling all 3 to 5, but we can randomly just reflect on the ones that stand out from the series. I have mine, and I will also become interjecting as we go along. Rabula, Divesh, anyone who's ready.
The first one that I would like to share is Unit 10, Conduct 5. Check in and start the show.
Yeah.
And I would like to bring it home. We don't have to go very far.
Yeah.
At the beginning of every show, Rasem, if you tune in 5 minutes before, you will enjoy the music.
Yeah.
And very soon, Prasam will be greeting the listeners and greeting the co-hosts. And immediately, he will be he will be inviting the co-host to. No, before that, Prasam will be introducing Tumako in terms of its slogan and in terms of its idea philosophy. And thereafter, he will invite the co-host to introduce themselves in terms of check-in. So the nature of the check-in is that the co-hosts are given the opportunity to share how they experience their day, and also give them the opportunity to link up their daily experiences with the relevance of the show. And thereafter, Pratham will introduce the units and the conduct to the listeners, and give the context of the show, and lead the co-host to contribute. Yeah, that is the check-in and starting the show in terms of conduct, Unit 10, Conduct 5.
And
Check-in
that gets repeated week in, week out, until it's almost like the osmosis. It's almost like the
even up to Unit 40, it was repeated.
yeah. And
Even
that
tonight, it was
that
repeated.
repetition become the master.
But for me, it indicated that whilst we are talking about planning, it shows that before each and every show, Prasem plans. And when he do his planning, he's making sure that he lead us in implementing that plan. And at the end of the show, he makes sure that we evaluate when he give us, each and every one of us, the opportunity to check out. So this is very important to integrate planning, organizing, leading, and control. I think that is a significant of this unit and its conduct.
And indeed, you brought it home, that Ramut. You didn't have to go too far.
I brought it home. I didn't have to go very far. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ramut. Divesh?
Yes, thank you, Sam. I don't want to point out to a specific episode or topic within the series of 40, but I want to point out certain nuances and commonality which were sort of golden threads amongst the modules that we had outlined and shared with regards to the do's and don'ts for benefit of our audience. The first aspect I wanted to just touch on was that of connection and engagement. We need to focus on building genuine connections with our audience. The engagements has to also incorporate the before the show, while the show is on, as well as the post-show comments that you might actually get. And then, of course, you must make sure that you create content that will resonate with the interests and needs of your audience. Authenticity and relatability are very key in terms of fostering your local online community. The other aspect that I wanted to just touch on was that of something we mentioned in today's show as well, is that of continuous learning and adaptability. Today's fast-paced world, staying relevant requires continuous learning and adaptability. We need to also embrace the new technologies, seek out professional development opportunities, and always be open to feedback. And thereby we can cultivate a growth mindset, will help us navigate the journey of digital online streaming. Another aspect in terms of our relationships, in terms of our streaming journey, in terms of our careers, is that of communication and being empathetic. Strong relationships are built on effective communication and empathy. We must make time for meaningful conversations, listen actively, and show understanding and support. And especially in this world of technology, technology can enhance communication, but it's very important to balance digital interactions with the face to face time to maintain a depth in your relationships. And of course, to add that depth to your shows in terms of the digital online streaming. Uh, Further aspect, self awareness, mindfulness, it's a foundation again for personal growth. Regularly reflecting on your goals, your strengths, your areas for improvement, practicing mindfulness to stay present and to reduce stress. These are tools that we will need in our digital journeys, in our life, in our relationships, in our careers. And that again is a value that we bring from a series like the Cometsa digital online streaming set of 40, Sam, where a lot of the do's, don'ts, skills, lessons that we are trying to share can be applicable to other areas of your life. And that being said, life in general, we definitely need balance. We need well being. We need to strive for a balanced life. Prioritizing well being is very important. That includes your physical health, your mental health, as well as your emotional well being. And we definitely need to set boundaries within those spheres so that we can be the best that we can be, Sam. Thank you.
Wow, the last one I want to pick it up, Tivesh. What a comprehensive reflection. Thank you so much. That's almost like the outcomes from the show and the learnings. But the last one that you have just mentioned, it's so critical. In fact, the second last, I must say, prioritizing well-being and setting boundaries, especially in the world of technology that is so invading, especially for us who have decided to play in this space of digital online streaming. That is going to become the bigger problem going forward into the future. And I'm very glad that you are highlighting it, Tivesh, as one of the things we need to guard against. And then I think I'm hearing you for a number of times mentioning this. And you also then touch on interventions that can help us to deal with this in the form of mindfulness and self-awareness and reduction of stress. So while you are highlighting it, you are also giving us solutions. That mindfulness will be very helpful for you to cope in this world. Am I hearing you suggesting that we need to be ready for devastation down the line that is going to be brought by this overindulgent into technology? And therefore, you are saying that we need to be ready to cope with that. Am I hearing you very well?
You're picking up very clearly on my negative sentiments, which I was kind of hiding in the background, Sam. Yes, indeed, we are, as much as there's opportunity, if we are not ready to ride that wave of digital technology overwhelming our lives, we will definitely be found wanting. And I say that especially with the view, I'm a parent of 3 kids, and I see them getting engrossed with the digital on the one hand, and I also see as well, I can call myself an expert in the artificial intelligence space, that you either consume the content and get left behind, or you be the one who can generate the content and contribute to the new digital society which we are already heading into. So if you are just the consumer, you need to have the ability for your life to be sustained in other forms, and you will not be able to just expect that you will get a livelihood out of the digital ecosystem. So that the danger is that you're not going to only be a consumer, but really be a contributing citizen in the digital society, Sam.
And that is coming loud and clear in your sentiments, Divesh. I had just highlighted it here. And I hear you loud and clear saying that you can't just be the consumer of this technology platform's content. You must also be a contributor. And you seem to be suggesting that you are much more safe when you use it to create content as well, rather than being fed by content by people that you may not be aware of what informs their motives.
Indeed, Sam. And as our listeners can go back and listen to our shows, or even better, join us in the new year when we do actually add an opportunity for them to be participating as budding digital online streaming masters themselves, and being able to not only consume the products that we are discussing over the 40 series, but also to be students and become masters themselves. You will find that you can be a contributing member of the digital society, much the same as it is in our regular societies. We can either be those who are contributing and taking care of our livelihoods, as well as the families that we have within the traditional economic spaces that we live in. But much the same, once it becomes more digitalized, and when we say digitalized, we're talking about the world becoming a much smaller space, but also becoming a way more competitive environment where we need to benefit from that digital economy, or just consume and then have a general life, which is that of struggle and stress, Sam.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Divesh, for such comprehensive reflection on the series. Rabula?
Sam, one thing which I've learned. Oh, can you hear me? The fish on the light, low stop on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. One thing which I've learned as to date is to say, when it comes to the issue of technology, of just Divesh has just mentioned, it indicates to us you need to be adaptable and agile. So don't be rigid in terms of saying, technology is going to teach me. You must also go and teach technology.
Mm.
So that's how I think and I feel that's how it should be contributed towards the sentiments were shared by Divesh in the space of saying, yes, we are living in a world of technology. On the other hand, also, we must be able to assist technology to learn us, not for technology to teach us all the time. That's what I could just make a small contribution in that space.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, indeed. I think we are all in agreement that, and I'm glad we are conscientizing ourselves around this, because you can see already, for instance, in countries like Australia, where they have banned the use of, social media for the under 14? Am I right, Divesh? I think it's Australia
That's correct.
that they just passed a new law. And I think that's a radical way of responding to the negative side of technology. And I don't know whether they are going to succeed, but definitely they are doing something about it. And you see in other countries where they are wanting the providers of these technology platforms to take the responsibility in terms of the impact of their products and product platforms on society. Similar to what has happened to tobacco manufacturers and distributors and alcohol manufacturers and distributors, whereby the adverts they put out there needs to contain caution in the form of damage that can be done by those products. I see us entering that stage, and therefore it's good that we also push the responsibility to the consumers themselves, especially those are not children, that are not children, but they are adults. That there is a responsible way that we need to use technology. And Divesh mentioned something that I think is also very important as a challenge to all of us, and that is continuous learning. Continuous learning and adaptability and professional learning on an ongoing basis. I think this is something that and I'm not being judgmental, but I find it's very easy for people to ignore it and pretend that they will not be caught by lack of it. And if you are in the knowledge space, you will know how it feels when you feel out of place because you have not kept up to date. Any other input from my side? I picked up a couple of ones, but there is one that speaks to listening actively and generatively to be able to appreciate where other people's inputs and sentiments come from, and that is unit number 16, conduct number 11. I enjoyed that, and I think maybe I enjoy it even more so because that is one of the key competencies of the International Coaching Federation in terms of core competencies of coaching, that you have to be able to listen actively and even generatively to be able to understand emotionally and physically what issues are grappling, that your listeners are grappling, your clients are grappling with. And if you fail in listening, you are bound to respond wrongly, inappropriately to when you then contribute your input. So that for me was one module I picked up. And then, of course, one unit. Of course, unit 2 and 3. Unit 2 was about evolution of digital online radio. That was really very mind-blowing for me. And then, of course, unit 3, which was about the evolution of podcasting. Those are the 3 ones that I highlight. Rabula?
Now, I wanted to say to you, as a coach, your first tool is listening. Because if you don't listen, you're not going to coach, you are going to impose. And there's a danger in that space. Hence, I'm saying I agree with you that listening is a key tool to deliver the outcome as a coach. Thank you.
And then that applies to the role of being a host or moderator or an anchor of a show. Listeners will pick it up very quickly when you're trying to play those roles and you are not listening to your guests, because you will not flow very well and you will not complement the inputs and contributions from your guests, and you will lose the listeners. So yes, but also in relationships in general, in life in particular, sometimes we are not given the capacity to listen. We are only interested in talking and being listened to. And when others are talking, we can't wait for them to finish so that we can continue talking. That creates problems in relationships. And is one of those things that we must continuously learn, because you've never arrived at it. You can only continue to get better at it. Because by nature we are created to want to be heard, not to listen to others. Great. Time flies. I don't know whether that was checking out, but if you feel very strong to check out of the entire series and the show, let's use the remaining 5 minutes to do so. Otherwise, I'm glad we covered what we had to cover. Tadera Mutla, let's start with you. If you feel you have checked out, also welcome.
Well, in terms of confirmation, the entire 40 series confirmed to us that continuous professional development is very important, and we were provided new opportunities to learn and sharpen our soul. Throughout the series, we had different aha moments, but today it was confirmed that the diversity of skills that we had was very much amazing. And therefore, this provided various aha moments. And then in terms of new insights and knowledge, Brasam, you have indicated that the information that we have gathered here in future, it will provide the platform for researchers to mine, for researchers to source information from. And in terms of new behavior and practice, of course, most of us and most of the listeners, in terms of their professional outlook and the knowledge, the new knowledge that they will be providing, they are going to, it is going to improve their outlook, and it is going to improve how they, their leadership skills. Of course, take home, there were different nuggets that we were taking from each and every show, and even tonight we have nuggets that we are taking home, and so I think generally we are ready to continue with our program next year. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Ndadera Mutla, for that overview. That covers all of us, unless the colleagues have anything to add to that.
I am covered. Thank you, guys.
Great.
From my side, Sam, I just want to say a thank you to everyone who was tuning in and participated and supported us along the way. Their enthusiasm and engagement have been the driving force really behind our success. And as we wrap up this incredible journey of 40 shows, also just want to take a moment to reflect on the amazing experiences we shared from the first episode to the final one. And each show has shown a testament to our collective passion for digital streaming and broadcasting. So yes, to the future of digital streaming and to all the exciting possibilities that lie ahead. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Indeed, the foundation is laid, and we are ending the series, but we are starting exciting chapter next year, where we get involved now in what we call continuous professional development in digital streaming, digital online streaming mastery, where we want to be more practical and cultivate this knowledge further and avail ourselves to grow the industry. Chapter 1 is done. The next chapters are more of us contributing and working along everybody else and be in line with the trends and grow the sector, because we believe very much so that the sector is very young, and we might have to introduce the video streaming as well, because the do's and don'ts are the same. So it's going to be very exciting. We know exactly who of us have done all this, more than 80% of the 40 units. So we know exactly who our experts are, and we hope that we are not going to abandon this industry, but we are going to be part of growing it even further. Thank you so much, colleagues. We left with a few days into Christmas time for those who celebrate Christmas, but otherwise the festive season is here, We hope we will be able to take breaks and come back fresh in the new year 2025. Hope everybody will be safe, spend time with family, and reflect on the year and look forward to the new year. That was Comeza Radio Worldwide, closing on the series Digital Online Streaming Mastery Show with unit number 40, Conduct 35, Personal Productivity, checking out and closing the show. That was the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. My name is Sam Tima, and I was joined by Divesh Motilal, Franz Makuloveram Mutla, and Rapula Mudivani. Thank you, colleagues, for all your time and the contributions you have made. And we can sit back and take a break and join each other in the new year. You take care and goodbye.